Big news on the recruiting front is just a few days away.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin, and thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest sport on planet Earth. The playoff format is still not solidified, which, par for the course, unfortunately, for this sport. And Diego Pavia versus Brett Bielema of sorts. That's how I'm choosing to interpret it. Fun stuff on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Brian Smith, longtime recruiting analyst and host of the Portal Podcast, is here to discuss the news that will be 4 days away from when this show first airs. Brian, Ryder Lyons set to commit June 24th. He is down to BYU, Oregon, USC, maybe Michigan, maybe. Kind of feels like they've receded to the background a bit. And I mean, my sense is that it's those three. And of all those schools, obviously everybody wants them. And Lincoln Riley's history with quarterbacks is well documented. Oregon's recruited the position very well over the years. This commitment would mean more to BYU than it would those other programs. I don't think it's particularly close. The number of 5 stars that wind up in the Big 12 anyway is a pretty small number. Of course, I've discussed Keyshawn Henderson on this show and his commitment to Houston, and that's a really, really big deal, not just for Houston, but for the Big 12 in general, as you have to start to chip away at getting those sorts of kids. But Ryder Lyons is a Folsom, California kid. He is LDS, so you think that gives BYU, at the very least, a unique way to stand out amongst the other schools. But other schools have got good pitches and NIL money too, right, Brian?
That is 100% correct. Don't forget Ole Miss either. Anytime Lane Kiffin's involved with a quarterback, you never know. And Lane's not going to give up whether he gets this kid or not right now. Ryder Lyons is a guy that could go anywhere. I've been around him. His personality, he could fit in to any crowd. And that's why you look at his list and you're like, man, this is about as broad as it gets. Ole Miss, Oregon, Michigan, BYU, Southern Cal. I don't know if you can get any broader, to be really honest.
If you toss Florida into the mix, maybe?
If he wants to go play for Billy Napier, good luck. I mean, that's going to be sitting behind a certain DJ Lagway. But anyway, the point is still the same. He looked at his recruiting process different. He visited all over the country, and he just picked schools based on comfort, I guess, because there isn't one specific criteria. And that's why when I saw that he was announcing quickly, I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't see that coming. He came off the OB from BYU, which by all accounts went very well, but he's got a brother that's tight end at Southern Cal. He's been to Oregon a bunch of times. He's been to Ole Miss multiple times. He's been to Michigan, etc. Man, I would not bet a nickel on any one direction on where he's going. If I have to pick, I'll just go BYU because it's his last visit in the LDS thing. But that is a confidence level 1 to 10, a 1. So if you want to take a stab at it, Spencer, you go ahead. But we're doing this a long time, and I don't see a clear path to an easy answer.
I don't think there is one, and the industry predictions on Lions are as varied as you indicate. I mean, you've got BYU coming off the most recent official visit where he then announces a commitment date. So at the very least, he feels he's got the information he needs to go out and choose the school where he will play college football. Oregon has been crystal balled by, I think, Steve Wiltfong on 3, particularly in the wake of Jared Curtis's commitment to Georgia in early May. That one came in quickly. 24/7, I think, has been more confident that he's going to wind up at USC and stay in the state of California. So anybody's guess. I would be shocked. I would be really, really shocked. Not that they aren't capable programs. Of course, Michigan just landed Bryce Underwood. We know Lane Kiffin's history with quarterbacks in the portal or high school ranks. And, Austin Simmons, who they're going to start this year, I think you and I is somebody who we both like a lot. And I just think that Ole Miss and Michigan have felt like the guys on the outside looking in. I think it would be a stunner from either of those schools. And Oregon, USC, BYU feels like the trio to me.
I mean, that wouldn't really shock me by any means. If he goes outside of that, it still wouldn't shock me either. But yeah, BYU, Oregon, those are the first two come to mind. In my opinion, when it comes to Southern Cal, and again, this is just me, his brother goes to school there. He's from California. That would have been the easy pick a long time ago. But why didn't he make that? Plus, this just Lincoln Riley knows a thing or two about this. I just think he would have picked it. I think it'll be BYU or Oregon. I got BYU, and that's just my guess. Again, I'm just trying to apply some kind of logic. But he could have picked BYU forever ago too, because he's LDS, and he didn't. So maybe it's your Ducks. I don't know. Maybe they're the ones that just kind of standing there like, well, come on down. We'll happily take you. So I don't know how else to put it, but this decision impacts a lot of schools, as you noted at the outset. BYU in particular. It changes the projection of their program, the exposure. There will be more games under the lights or TV if he goes there. He's an NFL player. So with that being stated, that means more to them. However, let's look at Oregon for a second. If they don't get him, who are they getting at quarterback? There's a couple other guys they might get, but we'll get into that in another podcast. But swinging and missing on 2 5-stars, you come so close would have to hurt. But then again, everybody misses a lot. So USC, I never feel bad for Lincoln Riley's quarterback situation. He'll figure it out. That I am confident. Transfer, junior college, he'll figure that out. But USC, again, I just want to throw this out there. Why didn't he commit there already if he was going to go? That's an easy pick, and he didn't take it. Plus his brother is there. So I think it'll be BYU. Listen.
Yeah, and the fascinating thing about looking at him through a USC lens is USC has a 2026 quarterback commit, but remember, Ryder Lyons is a one-year mission kid, so he's really a 2027 recruit. But I love what you said, Brian, about him going to BYU. This is someone, and BYU has not been lacking for solid to above average quarterback play. Of course, Zach Wilson was taken really high. I know his NFL career didn't work out, but he didn't get drafted there by accident. He was really, really good with the Cougars. Jaron Hall is still floating around the NFL. He had a really good BYU career. I know he's not a quarterback in the NFL, but Taysom Hill is a BYU legend. Like, it's not as if there's no history amongst BYU quarterbacks in the last 10, 15 years or so. Lyons, I think, has the chance to be the biggest BYU quarterback since Steve Young. I just think that his overall upside compared to what those guys brought to the table, which was certainly a lot. If BYU maximizes Ryder Lyons, I'm with you that suddenly becomes must-see television. The BYU-Utah game is suddenly that much more exciting. You will draw in that many more people because, hey, look at this guy they've got. And remember, this isn't college basketball where Cooper Flagg goes to Duke for a year and then bounces to go be the number 1 pick somehow to the Mavericks because the NBA has to be rigged. I don't know how else to explain that whole situation following the Luka trade. But this is, you'd watch this guy for 3 years. I think he'd have a solid chance. Jake Hatch of BYU, Locked On BYU Cougars would know better, but I think he'd have a solid chance to be starting as a true freshman. If you land this commitment for BYU, Oregon can go, I think, more readily to the portal each year. Also, they've recruited the position really well. I think their quarterback room is set for the next several years with or without Ryder Lyons. He'd be a welcome addition, of course, but he wouldn't garner, I think, the sort of national attention and program branding elevation that he would if he winds up picking BYU. And I mean, you couple this, BYU landed Brock Harris this cycle, someone who Oregon was after. Dan Lanning went out and visited Harris in person a couple times. BYU still got him. He's from the southern Utah area down in St. George, but still, it would be, I think, most notable for BYU. So we'll see what happens on June 24th. That is when Ryder Lyons commits, 4 days from when this show airs. Brian Smith, a longtime recruiting analyst, Portal Podcast, great as always. The playoff format, man, are we ever going to figure this out? I hope so, but I don't really know.